All right, everyone, I'll kick it off a bit early here. Hopefully you can hear me. Check. Can everyone hear me? Test 1, 2, 3. How's it going? Perfect. Excellent. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate everyone being here. This is kind of like a little impromptu stream, Q&A, just chill, hang out. It's easier to show off Rook if anyone has any questions or anything like that. Obviously, Gulsifer's here. He's the modding genius. There's a ton of mods by him already on the Discord. It's crazy to even keep up with all the mods that he's done for this already. And a lot of other members are doing all sorts of crazy mods for Rook. So, again, like I've said in a lot of my YouTube videos, I'm very humbled at the reception of this printer. If anyone was here from the original Bijou stream, you'll remember that I always wanted to make a 3D printed frame printer all along. That's where Bijou came from. It didn't quite work out at the time. I tried things a little bit differently this time, and obviously it's worked much better. So thanks to Bijou for basically making the Rook. If Bijou didn't exist, then the Rook wouldn't exist. Hey, Will from Calgary, really close to me. Awesome. Great to see some peeps in Alberta. But yeah, basically, I'm going to put it out there. I do have 2 more ideas for a printer like this. So I do have ideas of making 2 type of printers with this concept in mind, being mostly 3D printed. They do have to work very well though, so I'm not going to say what they are yet, but I definitely do have some ideas in my mind. They won't be coming anytime soon, I don't think. I do want to spend a bit more time on Defiant, my cross gantry printer, and make sure it's ready for Mark 1 release for that. I want to tidy up a couple things. It doesn't need a lot, but I do want to kind of dust it off and get playing around with Defiant because I just haven't messed with it. It's literally collecting dust, and I've got some new parts and stuff for it that I want to play around with and stuff. So I have a genuine Bondtech CHT and an orbiter and stuff like that. So, but yeah, there's definitely going to be. I want to print out another Rook with some Sparta filament. So I ordered a bunch of Sparta PLA, some Galaxy PLA, some cool sparkly stuff. So I want to kind of print out a second Rook with all of the modifications that I like and kind of make it really custom and stuff like that. So yeah, Golden, I really hope that you do print a Defiant. Again, I want to compare it to your Annex printer and we can do a benchy race. Yeah, I ordered about 4 or 5 reels of PLA, some Galaxy, some Pearl Green, some other colors and stuff like that. So Gulsifer, the Rook that I want to print, I'm going to kind of mix and match some things that I want to take. I really don't know which version I want to make, truthfully. I think for the most part, I want to try some different cooling. I think I'm very interested in that. I maybe want to try one with a V0 bed. Maybe I'll reach out to Sparta and try to get a V0 bed for this. I would like to try like a heated bed, just some testing and things like that. See how well it would work, that type of thing. This one is okay. I might even make my own build plate like a 3D printed build surface version of this, just to get rid of the glass and stuff like that. I've got a lot more ideas and things like that to kind of go with, but yeah, I kind of want to have a couple Rook printers like in a row on a table just printing away. I think that'd be really cool. So I've got a lot of things, versions and things like that I want to make, because in Canada I can get these stepper motors for like $8 a piece. So, and yeah, if Golden doesn't know, if anyone doesn't know, but this is Toymaker 3D. He makes some really cool models, and I want to use Rook to print out one of these entirely, one of these models just on Rook to showcase how well it can print. So I'm very excited on doing that. This is a free model from Toymaker 3D. I printed this out on my X1. Yeah, I'm going to check 3D Lab Tech too for some parts, because I know that they're very easy to get parts from as well. Yeah, I really want to use them. I want to support some Canadian and Alberta shops for sure. Thanks for coming by, Hacks. But yeah, I definitely have ideas for Rook. So there's going to be some cool things I think happening. I have other projects though outside of Rook that I want to finish. So and yeah, Jeremiah, a CHC Pro would be something I would like to test out for sure. Um, my CHC nozzle here, I haven't played a lot with it yet, but I am thinking I'm having a couple different issues with like PLA. The PLA that I'm using is not flowing as well as it should. I've definitely seen some videos of PLA flowing much better at 195 degrees, which I should be able to match, and I'm not on this. How difficult would it be to do a single Z stepper and switch to belts instead of rods? Um, like you mean one Z and then have a belt to synchronize the rods, or a belted Z? I printed these all in PLA 3D Unplugged. This is PLA Pro from Polymaker. I've not had any problems with it so far. My bed is not heated though, and I'm not planning on heating the bed. So that's okay for sure. If you can print ABS or ASA, that would be the best. But if all you can print is PLA, I think that's totally fine. I actually printed this pretty weak, in my opinion. 3 walls, 15% infill on the frame. And the frame, like the frame is crazy strong. And this is only 15% infill. In my experimentation just on this one printer, you don't need a whole lot of infill. A belted Z single stepper might be a little bit complicated, but I don't see why you couldn't do it, Aldo. I have some ideas, Jeremiah, on some larger Rook frames. I know Gulsifer has some ideas on the Discord, which is really cool, and those will be neat to see as well. I do have some ideas on making a larger Rook possible. However, they might be a little bit different than what is currently a Rook in its form. So if I do some different printers based on this idea, they will be their own printer. They won't be a mod. Yeah, although definitely you could save on cost. So these motors are only $8 on Amazon. I buy these in packages of 2. So really, you're only saving about $8 and a little bit on the lead screws, but definitely you could bring the cost down even more. Yeah, I mean, skewing the bed could definitely be problems. I haven't had any issues with mine, even though these aren't independent. They're just running off of one stepper. I don't find them getting out of alignment or anything like that. So yeah, I think it's really neat to mod this platform and maintain its size. And then, there could be larger versions of the Rook. And I also want to make a larger 3D printer that's printed, but it won't be called the Rook. It will be its own printer. I have some ideas on that. So that'll be coming, sometime soon. I don't really have like a list of projects that I'm working on next. Jacob, I definitely have some ideas on making a bed at the bottom of a printer and actually having the gantry moving on a printer like this. I have lots of ideas on that. I personally don't have any plans on putting a fan on the tool head. I haven't seen it needed at all with PLA. Um, Now it depends what you want out of the printer. Um, this like really crappy duct that I have is definitely not great and it works fine for me for sure. There's just no room to get. I tried for hours and hours to get a cooling duct on here. So I have this is from my Cappy 3D printer. So this is actually I tried to make a duct work on this and there just wasn't room to have the 5015 on the back and all that kind of stuff. So that's not to say that it's not possible, though. I just have not had much luck with trying to get a cooling fan on the tool head. And I do really like how clean the tool head looks. Yeah, Ender 5 Pro Gaming 53, just gut it and make another printer or convert it to like a Mercury 1 or something like that. And just like Bijou, Rook is meant to get people to learn about Clipper and get more people interested in Clipper and what it can do and stuff like that. Yeah, and check out Mitsubishi Makes channel on YouTube. He's got some Mercury 1 stuff. Maybe if everyone subscribes to him, he'll start making videos again. Yeah, Matrix. There could be definitely some hot ends that with built-in cooling solutions and stuff like that. For precision on the Rook, I because it's CoreXY, I don't see why it wouldn't be as precise. It's not meant to be as fast as an X1, of course. It's pretty close benchy wise for an X1, but I'm not competing with an X1. But accuracy wise, I would have no issues with accuracy on this printer. Again, being CoreXY. That's something I paid attention to when I designed it is I wanted to make sure that all of these bearings, they're resting on metal washers. They're not resting on plastic. So I wanted the bearings to be as straight and aligned as possible because I wanted the motion to be as precise as possible. Yeah, although there could be some really neat there's definitely probably ducts and cooling ideas I haven't thought about for sure. So I'm excited to see what people will make. I appreciate it, Golden Jaguar. Thank you very much. Um, the money definitely helps to make more Rooks and more crazy printers. Yes, JC. 8mm rods are press fit into the plastic. I experimented quite a bit with this. Um, I actually did a test print here. This is the birth of Rook. This part right here. I was testing tolerances and trying to see if I could press in a linear rod and how much material I would need for it to be stable. So the 8mm linear rods, they press into the bottom and they don't go all the way through. There is the hole is not all the way through on the bottom, so that you can bottom out all of the linear rails in the base frame. However, the top of the frame, the holes go all the way through. And that is because so you can align the top plate and make sure it's parallel with the bottom. And then also your linear rails cap off the holes so they can't slide up. And the press is very, very tight. An A8, Jonathan, if you're talking about an ANET A8, I think there, you could definitely probably use a lot of parts for it. You might have to run Marlin. Just because the mainboard, I don't think A8's mainboard by default will support Clipper. If you want to use as many parts as possible. You probably don't need a full-on hammer. They do fit nice and tight though. So I took a spare extrusion or like a wrench and I just tapped on it just ever so slightly. They fit in they're very well balanced as far as their press fit. Yeah, I know people have mentioned, Jonathan, about cutting these rods. They are very hard to cut, so you would need like an angle grinder or something if you want to use the rods from the ANET. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to show, but you can for surely. So, for you, Gulsifer, I know you're going to be using a Sonic pad, I think, so your setup will be a little bit different, but um, like an SKR Mini is really small. It definitely should fit in the middle here for sure. This is my power brick, so this is how big the power brick is for the Rook printer. I don't think there's enough room to include this in the bottom, but it can definitely be on the outside like this. Hopefully you guys were able to hear me, but for the frame, this is Polymaker PLA Pro. But yeah, Gulsifer, I don't see any reason. Almost all main boards and the wiring can for surely fit down here in the electronics tray. Aldo, if you have the time, definitely try PLA. Honestly, I can't say that it wouldn't work. I know people definitely complain about heat creep with bolts. The bolts will keep loosening themselves. But honestly, if you really look at this printer, there's not many bolts that you have to worry about creep, right? All of the bolts for the linear rails, they're on metal and they're threaded inserts at the bottom. So these aren't going to cold creep. These back motor pods, they might creep, but you could just print the motor pod out in ABS or ASA really easily. There's no other M3 bolts on here that will creep. So Jeremiah, the power brick, if you had a 24 volt bed and limited the power and you were only printing PLA, I think it would be okay. Because I think I'm using about 3 amps on this printer right now with it running, roughly 3 amps. So I've got about 3 amps left over. So if I had a 24 volt heated bed on here, I could probably limit the power to 50 or 40% and still probably heat it to 60 degrees. So I think that AC adapter would work. Yeah, Mitsubishi, it's 24 volts, 6 amps. So I've thought about that. I've definitely thought about that for sure. For tolerances when printing, I don't think you should have any problems. What I would suggest maybe is print out one of these frames, just a sacrificial frame part, and see if your linear rod will press in. Like maybe print it half height really fast with low infill and see if it'll fit. But you should be okay, truthfully. And yeah, like I say in my other videos, is I definitely made sure that we that I had spacers and stuff. And yeah, I'll queue up a print for you guys for sure. So I don't know what I actually have here for prints, but or for something sliced. But does anyone have anything they would like to see printed? Maybe I should ask first. Yeah, just use a heat gun and melt it in for sure. All these parts that you see here were printed on my X1, of course, because I wanted to build it really quickly. Like a calibration cube? Sure, we'll slice a cali cube up. Actually, I'll print my Rolo cube out if you would like. Yeah, I actually should. I should print out. I should design like a Rook calibration print for this printer. That's actually a cool idea, Aldo. Maybe I should make my own like Rook chess piece that's also a calibration tool, and people can print them out on Rooks. I think that'd be pretty neat. Okay, let me find my calibration Rolo cube, and I can print one of those out here. So DMK714, I'm using a clone BMG dual gear extruder. That's generally what I run on all my prototypes. It's literally like a $20 BMG clone off of Amazon. Jonathan, I've printed a 10K acceleration with 200 millimeters a second. Show this here. I don't have any PLA that likes to print fast. The red Polymaker PLA I was trying speed benchies with, it doesn't like, it needs a lot more temperature to print fast, and I've noticed that on other printers, like my Phoenix Delta when I had it. I needed to print this PLA at 220 for it to be able to print even good. So this isn't great filament for speed. So you can see the sensorless homing. We'll clean the nozzle real quick. And then this is an older design, so I have to make sure it doesn't hit the fan, the fan mount. That was fixed, of course, but this is a prototype still. So, I wonder if I can get a better view for you. Let's see if I can maybe angle it up here so you can get a better look at this. Yeah, that should be okay. Anycubic, I mean, they're pretty budget oriented for sure. I think the Viper is pretty decent, definitely. I would just do like buy one of those tents, those like enclosure tents. I think that would work. So yeah, something I almost forget on the YouTube videos, anyone who's building this printer, you must have a way to run Clipper. So you must have a way to run Linux, either a Raspberry Pi or an old laptop or desktop. I didn't include a Raspberry Pi in the bill of materials. I always forget to say that on YouTube. So this is printing at 100 millimeters a second right now, generally for most features in Cura. And I think it's running at 10K acceleration, not that it's necessary for this print. Yeah, 10K. Yeah, or a Sonic pad like Dulcifer is running, so. Bill of materials DMK are on GitHub for this printer. If you're not on the Discord, I generally recommend you go on the Discord and take a look there. I've pinned the bill of materials, and also it's like I say, on the GitHub as well. Yeah, an Orange Pi will work, anything like that. And I'm sure I forgot to turn on pressure advance on this print. So I'll try and put some pressure advance on, but Gulcifer, some of the links for the bill of materials, I've tried to fix in most of them. Which other links are broken so I can fix those later? See you later, Hacks. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. I have no room for a CNC. It'd be cool to make a CNC, but like resin printing, CNCs have a lot of waste. I have nowhere to have vacuums for all the sawdust and stuff like that. Yeah, Chip, for the lead screws, putting some anti-backlash nuts in would probably be a good idea. I haven't put them in, and it should be okay, but I mean, I don't notice any issues with that, so. My bed, it seems pretty tight, like the nuts seem pretty tight, and I don't notice any wobble to them, so yeah, it's pretty low, and the bed does have enough weight to kind of keep it from vibrating. Yes, CRS1, I would love to make like a plywood top and bottom and middle part, like a laser cut, like 6 millimeter thick, or maybe a 3 millimeter thick one would work. I don't know if it would be thick enough, or like an acrylic one or something crazy like that. It would be really, really cool. Eric, to tension the belts, it's right here at the back. So these are slotted, so you can actually tension the belts on both sides. Internet pizza, yeah. I'll be honest with you guys. Simple Core is complete. I'm definitely bored with it. CoreXY, like 2020 extrusion printers are just, they're really, really. I probably won't be doing a printer like that for a very long time. I want to focus on more printers like deltas, cross gantry printers, printers that are outside of the box, and printers that are more accessible for people around the world. I really, really want to build some good printers that don't use linear rails. I want to start making some more printers that have linear rods and they print well. Yeah, Golden, I want more cross gantry printers out there. I really do. I think for me, cross gantry printers is the perfect sweet spot because of the belt routing. I hate CoreXY belt routing. Not because it's bad, it's just tedious. It's tedious for me to design, and it's tedious for me to assemble and getting all the paths right and making sure the tension is correct and the tramming. Cross gantry is hands down way better than CoreXY for belt tensioning and routing. There's no question. I want small cross gantry printers. Yes, hopefully someone builds the rod mod Rook. I think it would be pretty cool. Gaming 53, people have ran Linux in Docker and containers and VMs. However, it's not recommended because Linux needs real-time control of the printer, and virtual machines sometimes interrupt that. I don't know if a container or like Docker or something like that would be better, but I know you can run Clipper in a Docker environment. The Ender 5 is not quite cross gantry. Cross gantry would essentially, the proper version of cross gantry would be that you don't have a motor on your axis while it's moving. The downside, Aldo, of cross gantry is part count, linear rails. Again, I really want to revisit my abandoned cross printer, that idea, and I want to make a cross gantry printer out of linear rods. I would like to try and make that work. Linear rails are very expensive in other countries. They're not generally that expensive in North America, but I know they're expensive in other countries. I generally don't run RepRap firmware, Eric, and I definitely don't touch Marlin. Not my preference. This is 100% running Clipper. It's running off of a laptop under my desk, actually. I'll try to show you guys, maybe if you can see it, but so that is my Clipper machine right there. That runs all of my printers on Clipper. This runs Defiant, this runs Rook, and it also does run Simple Core at one time as well. Yeah, I mean, a proper cross gantry printer should look like Defiant. Excuse the movement here, I'll show you, but so there is my Defiant printer, which is a true cross gantry, meaning there's a motor on each axis. So it has 2 X motors and it has 2 Y motors, and they do not move. It's technically considered Cartesian in Clipper and that, because the motors do operate in Cartesian fashion. However, the motors do not move on the axes. So this printer literally is collecting dust because I've just not had time with it, and it's an awesome printer, and I really want to get back to having it print. Like I said, I have a Bondtech CHT nozzle for it, and I have an orbiter extruder that I want to try and play around with. Oh, Golden, you are going to get a Bamboo Labs. Awesome. Yeah, it's a workhorse for me. I wouldn't be able to do printers like this as fast as I do without the Bamboo printer. There's just no way. It's it's not a very exciting printer. It is just a tool, but um, it's perfect if you want to make stuff like this and not have to worry. Awesome internet pizza. I really appreciate that. I want to make a newer Clipper install video on a laptop, a current one, and show more steps and maybe show people a little bit more in depth of all the little tiny things that I kind of forgot throughout. But I just like running Clipper on a laptop because I can run 4 or 5 printers on it and it's way faster than a Raspberry Pi. The Wi-Fi is perfect. I never have any issues. So yeah, Eric, there's only one duct right here. It's really crappy, but it works quite well. And it's a 120 millimeter GD Time fan. I think I have. Yeah. So here's the fan. That's how big it is. These are really cheap, like $8. This is the model. So it's very quiet and a ton of air comes out of this, which I like. Yeah, and there's a bunch of designs of ducks on the Discord and GitHub. It's difficult to scale it up like parametrically, if that makes sense, because the holes will be a little bit off. You would have to make some cuts and then add material, if that makes sense, to scale it up. Honestly, I'd love to have a large printer, like a 300 and 350 size build area printer, and I could maybe design a larger Rook and sell some frames for a larger printed Rook if they were strong enough. But I don't have a printer that's bigger than 250 right now. Yeah, Eric, it's a massive fan, and what's great about it is it moves a ton of air really quietly. CRS1, yeah, I definitely wanted to buy like a Prusa Mini clone, a FiSec one or whatever off of Ali and just put Clipper on it and make it into my own. Simple Core, again, it's too big and that's why I can't do it. It's just, I think if someone wants to make a larger Rook, I think like laser cutting or something like that would make the most sense. Then I could have like a laser cutter or something in my garage and I could make larger frames because I don't have room in my office. And that's why I sold my large Simple Core 330. It's a massive printer. I had no room for it at all. I don't even have room for the printers that I have right now. Like I still have a BQ Huracan behind me, and I have like a Predator Delta. It's sold. I have a Delta in my garage. There's going to be a restoration, a Delta restoration happening on my channel. I have a really old Delta that's running ramps. It's in my garage and I want to restore it with Clipper and make some new parts for it. So that'll be kind of cool to do. Yeah, Gaming 53. There's actually a Voron 2.4 for sale in my city for a 350 sized one, but I don't have room for it. Yeah, I need like a storage room with a whole bunch of shelving and just set up a bunch of printers. Although it was not a lot of filament, there's actually, especially with only 15% infill, there's actually not many parts, and there's not a lot of plastic on here. One spool will easily be able to print out a Rook, for sure. I use Fusion 360, but I don't really like it. It crashes quite often, so if you're going to get into CAD, try Onshape, or if you're going to use Fusion, save lots. Yeah, I really need to get some sort of shelving and a better setup for my office for sure, so I can get some more printers going. Um, I guess that's the only downside to the Rook is it can't print itself entirely because of the frame is one piece. But that would be kind of a neat mod, like a Rook that can be printed on another Rook. For the MCU, I do have the config file on GitHub for an SKR Mini. So if you want to take a look at the Clipper config on GitHub, it should be on there now. Yes. Yeah, Fusion, it's a love-hate relationship with Fusion, that's for sure. Yeah, Rookception. I would love to have like a Rook that could print its entire self on itself. It would be amazing. Again, RepRap is cool, and I think we've gotten away a lot from it. I think I want to bring modern parts back into RepRap, ideally. I know Jeremiah Gulsifer is doing like a larger version of the Rook that is cut up, so you can still print it on an Ender. It would be a really cool mod to cut up the current Rook in its size so that it could print on itself. But I worry about strength. Again, if anyone was remembering back in the day with Bijou, I tried to print out a printer using like 15 millimeter like printed extrusions, and then I bolted those together, but it just wasn't great. And that's kind of why I just gave up and I built Bijou with 2020. Yeah, SolidWorks, I mean, for a professional environment, SolidWorks is king for sure. I learned Fusion. I've been using Fusion for like 5 years. I'm definitely an amateur at it, but I can make stuff relatively quick, and it works well for me, and it's free. DMK714. So you can, if you use the Clipper installation and update helper script, it will actually let you install multiple versions of Clipper. They all run natively on the laptop itself. So it actually installs 4 separate instances of Clipper, and Mainsail is able to talk to all 4 instances. Although, yeah, there's ideas in the works for that. I won't say too much. Yeah, I really appreciate you being on the Discord, Gulsifer. It's definitely expediting the mods and the excitement of the Rook, I think, with so many different mods and options available and stuff like that for sure. But although for your question, I really think you could cut this section out and use a linear rod as the frame and also use it as motion entirely. I think would be really cool. I think linear rods can also be used for the frame, not just the Z, but I really do think this is the first step for me in trying out linear rods as a frame component. Again, I've got ideas for sure on how to do this. And again, there's more considerations involved when you're just using one bearing on X and Y because there's play. With 4 of these on the Z, and because it's such a slow moving axis, it's okay. These kind of take the play out of themselves once you have all 4 of them on. But if you have an X rod or a Y rod and it has a single bearing, there's a lot of considerations to try to get the play out of it. Quantum Phoenix Delta would be pretty interesting for sure, a small one. Yeah, Gulsifer, I definitely have some ideas on how to circumvent not having to tap the rods, but yeah, I've got some ideas certainly for a new design from the ground up. CSR1, any plans for a 10 or 12 millimeter rods? So Gulsifer did make a mod already for 10 millimeter Z rods. Yep, we have a 10 millimeter Z rod version. 12 millimeters would for surely be okay. It's probably like crazy overkill, certainly. It'd look awesome. A 12 millimeter rod would look beefy like crazy. It would definitely be a tank. This printer is quite a bit heavier than it looks. And I mean, the reason why I want to do like, I want to print out one of these models on this printer is because this is so quiet. It's such a quiet printer. My X1 is relatively loud, and if I can just have a little printer like this just pumping out parts for like cool superficial models like these toy maker ones, it'd be pretty neat to just have a bunch of printers behind me printing out some knickknacks and things like that, and my X1 will just be left for more engineering parts. And because these are so small, these are only 200 millimeters in height. 8 millimeters is totally fine. They're not going to bend in that small of a space, but the sky's the limit on a printer like this, right? I think you can really make it your own and think outside of the box. I'm hoping that this printer allows people to think of things that haven't been considered before, and try to make printing, like designing and assembling printers, fun and cheap as possible, but they also have to be usable. Yeah, noise is my biggest issue with 3D printers is noise. I will accept noise on my Bamboo Lab printer because it's so fast and it helps me do what I need. But on printers like this and on my Simple Core behind me, my Simple Core, I can't even hear it when it's printing. It's so smooth and silent. And that's generally why I run AC beds on my printers. I don't want to have a power supply fan. And that's generally why I go with like a non-heated bed. I just don't have to wire it, and I don't need a big power supply, so I don't need fans running. Also, something I would like to design from the ground up, a new part, is I'd like actually to make a scraper with like a Rook logo that can be printed on the bed of this. So a little tiny scraper that also can be printed, and it'll have like its own shape. It actually might be shaped like a Rook, and be able to print on here would be really cool. So Aldo, I did run Input Shaper on this printer. It's pretty hilarious. Um, I can put it. Are you on Discord, Aldo? On the Rolohan Discord? Honestly, Bill, this printer is so light and small. I don't think you would have any issues. Yeah, if you join the Discord, Aldo, I can repost the pictures of the input shaper results. They're pretty hilarious. They're like 40K, but they're very noisy. Again, I didn't really try too much, but it was like 40K on X and Y, but they're very, very noisy input shaper results. Um, Actually, maybe I can show them here on the live stream if I can find. Yeah, I think I do have them here. So let's see if I can do this and not break everything. Um, so here's the input shaper for Rook. It's all over the place, like 41K acceleration. Uh, it recommends 33K acceleration, but these are really, really noisy, of course. This is on Y, almost 50K acceleration. Quite noisy. Again, I wasn't checking my belt tension or anything like that, so take that with a grain of salt. Hopefully everyone was able to see see the input shaper results there. They're pretty hilarious. Again, I wasn't trying a lot, but I could probably try an Eiffel Tower print, you mean, Gaming 53? I could probably do like a time lapse. I don't know if I could do it on live stream, but I could definitely do like an Eiffel Tower print. Yeah, Jeremiah, I think Ali is accessible for most, but there's some countries that can't access AliExpress, and I think parts and shipping are very expensive. So I always try with my printers to pick the most common parts possible. Unfortunately, on this printer, you need those weird shims, those 6x5x1 shims, which, I mean, they're a necessity, in my opinion, to get the bearings aligned correctly and have nice, smooth motion. But I try to make sure that the parts are as generic as possible. So, yeah, here is a, if this will focus, not too well, but I'm sure you can't really see that too well. It's not the greatest at focusing, but that's a really nice Rolo cube there. Matrix, the belt path. What do you mean about the belt path for CoreXY? What is different about it? Andrew, thank you very much. Yeah, printed shims probably would work fine. Truthfully, for sure. I'm just running an old C920 Logitech webcam. I have two of these actually, but I don't have enough USB cables to set up both at once. If I run both of these cameras on one hub, they conflict with each other. They have to be on separate USB ports, and I just need to buy a USB extension. Yeah, DMK, I hope you're on the Discord and post pictures of it. I'd love to have a lot of people posting pictures, and I will issue serial numbers for rooks that have a video of it printing onto Discord. There will be serial numbers, and I'm sure we could come up with some little badges with your serial number on them that you could affix to the frame. Would X and Y make more sense for you to switch from rails to structural motion rods? Yeah, for sure. I think these could be replaced with linear rods. Again, as long as we were able to figure out the bearing, having bearings being loose, but 3D printed bearings or something like that might be an option for sure. Brian, I hope so. I hope there's a bunch of serials and Rook pictures and videos and people tinkering and playing and trying to push their Rook to the limits. That would be really cool. Like I say, I don't have any good PLA to try some cool speed benchies, like some like under 17-minute speed benchies. Because all the PLA I have doesn't like printing like under 200 degrees. The PLA that I have is like PLA Pro or PLA Plus, and it definitely needs a higher temperature to print fast. But I've seen videos of people printing PLA fast, very fast, at 195 with just a drag and hot end, like nothing special. So this printer should be capable of printing faster. I don't know about cooling, but actually laying down plastic fast, it should be capable of printing PLA much quicker than it is, I think. But I have to do some testing, and I'm hoping some other people will try it out and stuff. Yeah, Escort Mad, I can definitely show you a homing sequence. So I will, if I can go back to my page here. So I'll do a home all for you. So sensorless homing on X and Y really quick, and then Z homes all the way at the bottom. The end stop is at the very back on the bottom frame. And that is so you can adjust the offset in Clipper. So it's now homed, and then generally what I do is I will actually set the end stop position in Clipper, and the end stop position is my printable height, if that makes sense. It's a little easier to figure out once you get one printing, and Ultimaker uses the same system. They have their end stop at the bottom. That's where I learned that from, actually. I had an Ultimaker 2 that I converted to Clipper. Oh, so you're saying just do a linear rods on X, and on Y you would keep the rails. Yeah, that's an option. I would probably go the other way around, just because a rod on X you need two, and it's harder to make that nice and compact. But if you had rods on Y instead, you just need a rod on each side. You have lots of room, and then just leave the X as a linear rail. Yeah, I can show you the code if you would like. Let me see if I can figure out to get this viewable so I can also see machine. So let's share my screen. I think that shares my entire screen. Here, let me see if I can just share my well, let me see here if I can just bring up the stream on my phone so I can still see chat. I definitely need more monitors as well. Okay, so I will share my screen out here so hopefully you guys can see this. So pretty standard Clipper install or Clipper configuration, if you will. I'm not running any probes or any kind of fancy stuff like that. So basically what I'm doing is I'm actually just running one config file. These are both default with Clipper. This is for my accelerometer, which I'm not using right now. I'll try to increase the size of the font here for you guys so you can see it. So again, the thing I like about Clipper is that it is very human readable. It's very easy to figure out what is going on in the config file. So I'm running arc welder, so I get better circles. It's not necessary, but this enables arcs in Clipper. I've set up my X and Y here. They're both identical for the most part. I'm running 64 microsteps. So I want a quiet printer, but I want high precision. So instead of 16 microsteps, I'm running 64. I'm using sensorless homing, so I have a virtual end stop. I'm just using my diag pin for my end stop, which is basically just your end stop pin. You can see down here my TMC driver. So with a Pico or SKR Mini, you would set up your TMC driver information. I'm running very low amps on my steppers, only 0.5 amps. I'm running, this is my sensitivity for sensorless homing. Yeah, the higher microsteps, or sorry, the lower microsteps you go, the louder your printer will be. Some people like that sound. I personally don't, so I actually run 64 microsteps to quiet everything down. So low amps, I'm running, this is my sensitivity for sensorless homing, and this is my diag pin. Generally on all mainboards, your diag pin is your end stop pin. So this is where my end stop pin would have been. I'm just using it now for sensorless homing. Same thing for Y. Y is using the Y end stop pin as my diag pin. And I'm using a different sensitivity for Y. So again, like very straightforward. These pins you can find in Clipper. You can find these on Clipper's GitHub. They have a config file for every mainboard out there. The Pico, they have a config file for you. Just copy and paste the config file, and you will just change the settings, like the size of your X and the size of your Y. Set your homing speeds. You know, set up your Z. I'm running lead screw, so my rotation distance is only 8. That's the same for almost all lead screws of this type. So depending on what lead screw you run, there's 3 different types. There's 8, 4, and 2. So here is how my end stop works. The Z on this printer is a maximum of 115. And I told Clipper that my end stop is at 112.8. This is where my printer starts printing at. So if I want my nozzle closer to the bed, I increase this number. If I want my nozzle farther away from the bed, I make the number smaller. So greater the number, the closer the nozzle is to the bed. The smaller the number, the higher it is, or the farther away it is from the bed. And this allows me so I don't have to physically change my end stop. I can put it just at the bottom. Long as it touches, I can now set all my Z offset in software. My extruder, very straightforward. I calibrated my rotation distance. There's a really good calculator on Clipper's website. Unfortunately, my website's dead because of GoDaddy, but it's relatively easy to calculate your rotation distance in Clipper. And then pretty straightforward, again, my nozzle diameter standard, filament diameter standard, my min and max temps. I've actually set up my printer so I can print cold, so I can test my printer. So I can send a G-code file to this printer and I say print, and it will start printing without heating the nozzle. I can print at 0 temperature. It's really nice to make sure everything's working and that type of thing. I'm running pressure advance on the fly. I have it commented out, but I'm setting that in the dashboard. Here's my extruder TMC settings. I'm running pretty high current on my extruder because I'm running a larger, like I'm not running a pancake motor or a small motor. So, and because of the 64 microsteps, I need higher current. That's one downside of running high microsteps. I'm not running a heated bed, so it's commented out. These are my 2 cooling fans, my nozzle cooling fan and my part cooling fan. This does have a controller fan, which I'm not using. I just haven't commented it out. This is my Clipper ID. So this is the ID of my main board. It's a CoreXY printer. These are my maximum values. And then this is just default. And you can see my input shaper results and stuff like that there. So, but yeah, it's a very small config file. It's very easy to figure out, I think. And like I say, when people start building this, I think it'll be pretty easy for us to help you out because it's such a simple printer. But yeah, that's a kind of a quick rundown of Rook. I kind of wanted to keep this like a simple live stream, nothing crazy. It's crazy that 50 people watching the live stream is definitely by far the largest live stream that I've had, and I would like to do some more, and maybe some live streams where I announce a new printer and show it off and things like that, or do a live stream with Defiant. I mean, I have one YouTube video on Defiant, my cross gantry printer. It definitely needs some more attention. I do want to print out a second Rook. I have most of the parts for a second one. So that would be pretty cool. But yeah, that's kind of all I had for this quick like hour-long live stream for today. I appreciate everyone coming. If you're not on the Discord, I definitely encourage everyone to join the Discord. We have an awesome group of people on there. It's a really friendly Discord, and you can do and make some really cool stuff with the community. Thank you, Gene. I appreciate it. I definitely am going to be doing more designs. I do have to go back and revisit a couple projects. Yes, the stream will be made available on my YouTube channel, so you can watch it. Oh, awesome. Thank you from Germany. That's amazing. And yeah, I would love to see a Rook with parts from an ANET A8. I definitely owned a couple of those printers myself. Appreciate you coming, Aldo. Definitely join the Discord. Thanks so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'd like to do some more streams and hop on Discord chat a bit more often. It's just easier to help people out building the printer and answer questions rather than like typing it out all the time or responding to comments on YouTube. But I'll end the stream here, guys, and Alan, if you missed it, you can watch the stream. I'll make it available on YouTube so that you can check it out. And yeah, keep modding Rook, and there's going to be more printers in this style. I think this is really popular, and I'm really into tiny printers. I would like to make a printer a little bit bigger than this, like 180 by 180, I think is my sweet spot, my favorite size of printer, but we'll see. But thanks everyone, and yeah, catch me on the Discord.